Welcome back, everybody. You OGs know how this goes. My name is Randy. You're watching the 5-5 Garage channel, and today is another video on my Tahoe project. I will be addressing some of the suspension issues that I am having. Before we begin, if this is the first time you have ever seen any of the videos on this channel, allow me to say welcome. And I work on a variety of cars on this channel. The main focus is my 2010 Mazda Speed 3. I also have a 1996 Turbo Miata project over to my left over here that I work on. As well, I have a 2003 Chevy Trailblazer and my recent acquisition, a 2001 Chevy Tahoe. And speaking of that Tahoe, you guys have already seen videos on it. I showed you how to program a new set of key fobs for it. I also swapped out the old 20-year-old headlights with a brand new set and added LED lighting. And today's video, I will be working on the suspension. I have been daily driving the Tahoe for about 2 weeks now, and one of the things I should say that is really starting to aggravate me is the fact that the suspension is in need of replacement. I did a walk around earlier on the car and noticed that one of the rear shocks is blown and needs to be replaced. As well, I believe one of the front shocks is blown, and the bump stops that are on the suspension are non-existent. They are either cracked or just missing completely. So today I will be addressing all of those things. And one of the ways I will be addressing some of the suspension problems that this truck has is with a set of these, and these are the Bilstein HD 4600 series. I got them for both front and rear shocks replacements. The Tahoe that I have has the Easy Ride system, and the rear shocks in particular have springs in them that also supplements the rear springs on that vehicle. When you replace the rear shock, you also have to replace the springs, and I got a set of Moog springs. I didn't get the Z71s as they are about, I think 2 inches taller, and I just decided to get a stock replacement. I will have all of the links down in the description to the same stuff that I am using, so if you need to do the same procedure, you can get the same stuff. And since I will be underneath the truck replacing the shock and the springs, I went ahead and ordered a set of new bump stops as well. Like I said, the ones in the front are gone. The ones in the rear are about to just disintegrate into dust. So if you're going to be doing this procedure, go ahead and get another set of bump stops. You're going to be down there anyway. Go ahead and replace them now. The suspension uses these, they're called Jounce Stops, and what they do, especially on the front, is they get a lot of the wavy motion out of the suspension, and so that should really help my ride, because right now it's like I am on a seesaw. Okay, now that I got all that parts description out of the way, I'm going to go ahead, pull the Tahoe into the garage, get it up on jack stands so we can begin the removal process. I'm going to start on the fronts first, as it's going to be more of a simple remove and replace. I also have 2 cameras going for this, so I'll have the main camera showing you guys some shots, and then I will have my handheld camera showing you any issues that I may run into. With all that said, let's get started.
I'm using my magnetic pickup tool to illustrate this. This right here is the top of the shock, and you need to loosen that bolt in order to remove the upper shock mount. And then on the bottom, this right here is the lower shock bolt, and get those loose and you should be able to just drop the shock straight out of here. Now right there is where the Jounce stop should be, and as you can see, mine is completely disintegrated, so I'm going to be replacing that as well. These are fairly simple, they're press fit, so I just need to get a screwdriver in there and just work that free, and then do the opposite when I put the new one in. I think I'm going to use a little bit of some WD-40 or something to kind of lube it up so it slides into place. Now before I get started, I am going to use a lot of PB Blaster to see if I can get some of these bolts loosened up without too much trouble. I do have an impact. As well, if they're really stubborn, I will use a torch. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but it is pretty rusty under here, and just preparing myself just in case, but I'm gonna get started. Okay, whew, that was a lot of damn work. These things were rusted in there, but here's a side-by-side shot. This is the old stock unit. This is the new Bilstein. As you can see, man, this thing was rusted. And this is one of the bushings that went to the stock unit. See how it's rounded out? I think this one was the blown one. There's a lot of play in this bushing, so that contributes to a bit of the front end wobbleness as well. Like I said, the Jounce Stop is completely destroyed. So I'm going to go ahead and get that old Jounce Stop out of there and then replace it with a new one. And then I will then show you guys how this goes together. Another little update here. So this is the passenger side Jounce Stop or bump stop that I just pulled out. And as you can see, man, this thing is destroyed. There is no bump stop on the driver's side, and this is the replacement. And yeah, this is one of the reasons, especially if you have one of these Tahoes and Yukons and Silverados and Sierras. If it's older and you've never replaced them and your front end feels like it is bouncing and moving all over the place, you get a wiggle. This is one of the reasons why, is because these bump stops are degraded or they're smashed in, and they are what really helps control a lot of the bounce on the front ends of these trucks, because there's no springs. This uses a torsion bar setup, so there is no springs in the front end to really control that bouncing motion. And what this does is it fits into the upper A arm, and when you lower the vehicle actually sits on this, and it's really stiff, as you can see. And what it does, it helps control that up and down bouncing motion that a spring normally would do. But if your vehicle doesn't have them, in the case of mine, it doesn't for a while, you will get a lot of the oscillations and the bumps and everything, and you really notice it going over train tracks or uneven ground. The front end just wants to like kind of wobble all over the place. So if you're experiencing that, you might want to go ahead and get you a set of replacements. Okay, so now that we got that stock old rusty shock out of the way, we can now start working on putting our new Bilstein together. And Bilstein provides all of your upper hardware. So here goes your two bushings, and then the washers for them in a new lock nut. And when you go to put this back onto the truck, make sure first you take one of these and slide it on all the way until it seats proper. And then this will be the way that it goes into the truck. And once you have threaded it through the suspension mount, you will then take your other bushing, fit it on the top, sandwiching that mount in between the two, and then use the lock nut, tighten it down. Now you can see I got my shock is now in and tightened down, and I also got in my new Jounce Stop, and everything's ready to go on the upside. And then go ahead and put the bushing in on the top and then torque that down as well. I'm going to save that because I still need to do the driver's side. So once I do the driver's side, I'll pick the video up in the engine compartment. Shocks in, and see how on your bushing there is a little raised area. Make sure when you go to lower the truck down that the top of that bushing fits in that hole like that. I did it on both sides, and you can see what I'm talking about. See this raised area here? You want this part to fit in the hole in the suspension arm mount so that it lines up nicely. So the next part is to go ahead, slide your top bushing on with the washer, and go ahead and tighten down your lock nut Now, I know the temptation is to use an impact to drive that in, but you don't want to do that, because what will happen is you can spin the shaft and that can rupture and cause damage on the inside of the shock, and then you'll be doing this all over again. So go ahead, get yourself a big crescent wrench and put it onto the faces on here to hold this key from spinning. I'm going to use a ratcheting box end wrench. It just makes this much easier. All right, so I now got the tops of the shocks in and bolted down and torqued down. Whew, that was a lot of work. But both sides are done. I don't know if you can see it over here or not, but I got, as you can see, I now have the bushings on and they're all torqued down to spec. And the next thing I need to do is spin this truck around and get started on the rears. Back with another comparison shot. The top one is the stock shock and the bottom one is the Bilstein that I'm replacing it with. And the reason why the stock shock is so fat is there's a helper spring in there that helps that, as well as the spring underneath the car. I'm going to go ahead and replace my springs with the Moog springs and then slap in these new shocks, and then hopefully the ride will be much improved. I did go ahead and replace that bump stop you can see back there. New shock is in, everything is torqued down. I do need to finish up one small thing, but otherwise this is pretty much done. Now I still need to do the other side of the car, but I'm not going to show you guys that because the procedure is pretty much the same, just to remove and replace. So I'm going to finish that up.
Whew, man, I'm tired. All right, now that I have dirt all over my face, all of the shocks installed, the bump stops, the springs, I'm going to consider this a wrap. The Tahoe is now sitting on updated suspension. I still need to do things like the sway bar end links, the ball joints, and also I really want to get my power washer underneath the car and power wash a lot of that dirt and rust from underneath there. And then I'm also thinking about maybe getting a hold of some black fluid film and undercoating the entirety of the truck, and then that way I won't have to worry about it rusting anymore. But that's for a later video, so hopefully you guys learned something today, and if you did, make sure you smash that like button as well as you click subscribe. Liking the videos helps me out with the YouTube algorithm so that people can find my content easier as well. You want to make sure that you're subscribed so you know when all these videos come out, because as I always say, there's a lot more to come. I am still waiting on some parts for the Turbo Miata project, and once those come in, I can pick up where I left off. As well, there are a couple things here that you can't see for the Mazda Speed 3 that I'll be putting on the car, so make sure you're subscribed so you know when those videos come out. As for right now, it has been a very long day. I am so tired. I still have to clean up, put my tools back where they go, and then clean the garage up a little bit, and then I'm going to go and enjoy my evening. I hope you all are enjoying yourselves wherever you are, staying safe, enjoying this nice springtime weather, and I will see you guys on the next one.